Let's bring in Robert Gutsche. He's an associate sociology professor at Lancaster University in England. He is the editor of a new book called The Trump Presidency, Journalism and Democracy. Professor, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us. Plenty for us to sink our teeth into this morning. Let's start with the move by the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who has tied the larger relief checks with the other two measures. What's the strategy here from him, do you think?
Well, some of this was a negotiation to get Donald Trump to sign the first bill, right, to provide the $600 to Americans, but also to stop the government from shutting down, among lots of other funding budget line items here. And so these are taking a look at some of Donald Trump's issues, having to do with social media and holding them accountable in his eyes to the content that they spread, which he thinks led to him losing the election and being anti-conservative in what it supports and what it deems as being fake news, as well as other concerns of his. But really, it's the 2000 number, right, of wanting larger checks to go in to American bank accounts.
Now, I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Professor, that the move by Mitch McConnell doesn't necessarily guarantee that he will bring up the bill for a vote. But if he does, is this just a game of political chess likely to kill off all of the three measures altogether?
Well, what we're also seeing that's playing into this is the January 5th Senate race in Georgia. And so a lot of this is trying to curry favor with American voters, because that decision is going to decide who's going to run, who's going to hold control in the U.S. Senate. And so even though there are lots of complexities and general what looks like a dismay on Capitol Hill, there's also an understanding that we need to have voters go to the polls and make decisions that would influence a Senate hold under a Biden presidency. And so one of the main issues here is, how do we get those voters to go to the polls to secure the Senate for either side? But what they're doing at the same time is having voters be concerned about how American democracy works. This is going back into the normalcy, I guess, of U.S. politics pre-Donald Trump, which kind of fits to Donald Trump's rhetoric over the time that government can't get anything done. And so, even though he sat on that bill for 5 days and delayed a lot of things and added a lot of concerns about whether people would get unemployment benefits and whatnot from the first bill, he's actually proving a point in his own kind of bizarre way of running politics, that government is its own enemy at times, and certainly isn't necessarily thinking about the average American who could use that money, but also who's looking to the government for some sort of certainty, particularly now in the middle of a pandemic.
And, we are seeing, I think it's fair to say, a feud within the Republican Party, because we've seen several Republicans now supporting the expanded stimulus payments, but many others still believe they are not sound economic policy. So how real of a feud is there within the Republican Party?
Well, this has been something that's been boiling up from not just a pre-election, but certainly during the election, about where they're going to land on if the election itself was valid, legitimate, and if Donald Trump lost the election. And certainly, Republicans have been struggling a long time now, for 4 or 5 years now, to figure out where they stand in terms of what some consider turmoil on Capitol Hill, but some might also see as policies that are making America better, if we were to use Donald Trump's sort of rhetoric here. And so this kind of feud within the party is a real thing that's been brewing for a couple of years. Certainly then it got a big punch during the election. And this is kind of the first time that it's come before Congress that they've had to make a decision, put a vote down on a piece of paper, make a stand, and speak to their constituencies about who they are, what the Republican Party is, where it's going forward, and quite frankly, where they are now, when people are looking for how they're going to pay rent, how they're going to put food on the table. It's not a good look for Republicans to be blocking this, even though there are a lot of other political pieces at play here. It really does, for the American people, come down to, how do I make rent? How do I not get evicted? how do I put food on the table? And some of these other policies kind of take a second seat.
Yeah, that is such an important point. Yet, meanwhile, we have the president saying that that they should vote for this unless the Republicans have a death wish. Robert Gutsche, thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Now, an incoming Republican congressman has